Hi, I'm Dr. Simon Walker. I'm a military historian and an occupational health suicidologist at the University of Glasgow. And I've been asked to talk a little bit about why we do Remembrance every year. So, I'm going to start off with a wee video.
I knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy, slept soundly through the lonesome dark, and whistled with the early lark. In winter trenches cowed and glum, with crumps and lice and lack of rum, he put a bullet through his brain. No one spoke of him again. You smug-faced crowds with kindling eye, who cheer when soldier lads mark by, sneak home and pray you'll never know the hell where youth and laughter go. I knew a simple soldier
This is a
boy
poem from
who
the First World
grinned at
War by
life
a
in
famous
empty
war
joy.
poet called Siegfried Sassoon.
Slept soundly through the
It was
lonesome
published in
dark,
1918,
whistled
but the poem
with the early lark.
had been circulated before
In
that.
winter trenches cowed
It's my
and
favourite
glum,
poem,
with crumps and lice and
and
lack
it's
of
not
rum.
one that you'll
He
probably
put
have
a bullet
heard
through his
in
brain.
comparison to, say,
No one spoke of
in
him
Flanders
again.
Field or Dostoevsky
You
before the Nest,
smug-faced crowds with
any of
kindling
those.
eye, who cheer when
But I
soldier
think it's
lads
the
march
most
by, sneak
visual, it's the
home
most
and pray you'll
visceral,
never
it's
know
the most
the hell
kind of telling
where
of
youth
all
and
of
laughter
the
go.
poems that you may get from the First World War, just about the horrors of war.
I knew a simple
When it talks
soldier
about
boy
how a
who
story
grinned
of
at
how
life in empty joy.
soldiers went to
Slept
war
soundly through the
ready
lonesome
to
dark,
fight, and
and
many of them
whistled
went with
with the early
propaganda
lark.
and they went with excitement
In
in some
winter
cases,
trenches cowed
for
and
the
glum,
excitement of war in
with
the
crumps
First
and
World War.
lice and lack of rum. He put a bullet through
Lads
his
just
brain.
skipping down
No one
to
spoke
the
of him
recruitment
again.
office to get
You
themselves in uniform
smug-faced
and get
crowds
themselves
with kindling eye, who
all
cheer when
geared up
soldier
and
lads march by,
excited.
sneak home and pray
And
you'll
by
never
the end
know
of the war in
the hell
1918,
where youth and laughter
obviously
go.
that wasn't the case, and it wasn't a great adventure.
I knew a
It
simple
was a
soldier
horrific
boy
experience.
who grinned at life in empty joy.
20th century is a period of immense conflict. 231 million people have estimated to have died in conflicts and wars in the 20th century alone. And the Scottish National War Memorial commemorates, well, you can see on the screen, hopefully, 135,000 Scottish casualties in the First World War, and on to the Second World War and conflicts today. One of the reasons that we do Remembrance is so we can be aware of these sacrifices of these individuals, and not just the Scottish ones or the British ones, but the global ones, and those deaths and casualties that have been caused by war or are as a result of war, both in the past and today. But sticking with the past, this is an account from a private Warsaw who in 1917 recorded in his diary that he'd been hit and he was then sent to hospital. And this is his story. And he said, there was a flash in the sky and I realized with a shock that I had been badly hit. My right arm jumped up on its own and then flopped down. I felt as if my left arm and part of my chest had been blown clear away. My first thought was, blow me. I never thought I should get killed. A feeling of nothing but surprise. And then I thought of home before I lost consciousness. It's one of my favourite quotes, and I used it in my own book and in my own work because it shows that many of the lads who went to war in 1914, 1915, they didn't think that they were going to die. They didn't think that they were going to get hurt. And in a lot of cases, death came as a shock. After 1915, 1916, and battles like the Somme, obviously that shock more proved to be something to be afraid of. But in the Second World War, you get a similar story, but not with the trenches. In the Second World War, one of the things you get are POW camps, prisoner of war camps, particularly more in the Second World War, although there are some in the First World War. And this is a story from Alistair Urquhart, who is a Gordon Highlander in World War II. And I won't read it all to you, but as you can see on the screen, it talks about his experience as a POW, having been captured by the Japanese, and how he was beaten and punished, and his friends were, some of them were even killed for daring to ask questions. And this is yet another side of war. In that it's important to remember the consequences of these actions. It isn't just bombs and bullets, but it's humans and civilians and prisoners. And that's why we do Remembrance. The poppy was taken on as a symbol of remembrance around the end of the First World War, and it was originally picked up by John McCrae's poem in Flanders Fields, having noticed that the churning of the soil allowed the poppies to grow. And out of all of this death and destruction came this beautiful flower. And in 1918, it was then suggested by Moina Michael that they should use the poppy as a symbol of remembrance, and it has been ever since. And now there are multiple different versions, but the red and black poppy always sticks in our minds. And for me, the idea here is about what the wars have presented, and it's not just the big numbers and how many died, how many got sick, how many got hit by a bomb or a bullet or a tank, or it's about the individuals that some of them were barely older than you watching this. And one of them was Private William Broadbent, he was just 18 when he went to war in 1914, and he did these beautiful pictures. And I think that, the one on the right with him and his bedfellow, his rat that crawled into his bed, it's really funny. But the one on the left shows that, as he entered the army, he was all smart and handsome, and then he's fighting in the trenches, and he's got present condition, he's haggard, and when peace is declared, he thinks he'll be almost a shell of himself. And that's why I would say, as a historian, we do remembrance. It's to remember all that's lost, all that was gained, and all that was sacrificed. Thanks for listening.